Team Avid, two-part question. I find that when I talk with a lot of Avid customers in LA and other places, a lot are still using legacy versions of Media Composer. So what would you say are the top reasons people should consider upgrading to the latest and greatest version of Composer?
So I'll start. Ray may have some other thoughts as well, but I like to emphasize that it's not just about a new UI. You know, people sort of are like, well, I don't like the new UI. I don't want to switch to that. It's the newer versions of Media Composer have been completely overhauled from bottom to top. So like there's a faster, better, stronger engine happening underneath, which basically translates to faster working exports. Our media management has changed dramatically. And so all of those things are going to be faster. And then we keep adding little things, little tools that help you sort and manage data faster, find, replace, and bulk edit, all things that can make your life easier in terms of just managing content.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would just say too that the versions of Media Composer now that are coming out are also introducing new capabilities if you're entering into things like working with Media Central Cloud UX, or even in the future with things like distributed processing. There's a lot of capabilities that are in the newer versions that you're just not going to get some of the older ones.
Definitely. The other thing also is, I mean, years ago, I learned to edit on an RM450. And I found out later on that the Boris plugins don't work with the Sony decks. So I needed something else to do the trick. So I had to kick it up a notch and go nonlinear. And that's the same thing. Technology always is marching forward. So let's ask what's the future looking like for Avid's product development? How's the roadmap to make everything more cloud? Is it going to be more interoperable, or is it to be more open? What's the crystal ball say?
Yeah, I would say definitely. I mean, the shifts that we've seen in the market around embracing the distributed workforce has really I think challenged us as a company to come up with solutions that will enable that and help them build out not only make that experience even better than what it is today, which is, I think, Jeff, one of the things that is somewhat surprising for many coming out of the pandemic is just how well people were able to sort of pivot and use existing technologies in many cases and still have business continuity and deliver projects through what has been a very challenging time for everybody, right? But it also opened eyes and said, you know what, this could be a way forward for everybody. And, everybody's kind of looking at it somewhat differently, but all starting to see all the many benefits. And so I would say Avid is really embracing that as well and trying to deliver tool sets like what we just showed in terms of SRT to be able to enable that sort of over-the-shoulder experience, but do so from anywhere, which, helps not only shorten time to market, but can also cut down costs. So I would say as a whole, that has really become the mantra.
And that's one of the other, like the over-the-shoulder stuff, that's one of the features that a lot of other folks began trying to develop with these third-party apps. Now we can just do it from inside of Media Composer. So why would you need to spend X amount to do this over here on the side when you can just, hey, kick up to the latest version and kick out an SRT stream, which some of you are probably watching right now on loop.
Yeah, and it's flexible too, right? Because you can do it all software, right? The only potential hardware could be, say, a gateway sitting locally within your facility, but you can also do a cloud, either hub or gateway, and deliver content to multiple people at the same time, as Corey mentioned, right? She showed you the hub. And that means you can actually design an all software solution on the receive side too. So from a cost perspective standpoint, it can be very beneficial there as well.
Awesome. So Benjamin's got a question, and this is for Peter. What do you look for when you're hiring an AE?
That's a great question. Well, I think when we're hiring an AE, I think, first of all, there's a vibe, we're people and we're going to be working long hours together. And it's a good vibe and a good communicator who understands, that they're coming in to really service, and support a project, right? I think when we're interviewing with AEs, it's myself, a producing partner, and the director, but also it's the editor. It's really going to make the decision as to who their collaborator is going to be, and I think sort of a great positive attitude about about the work ahead is something that's important, but then also having a real strong technical kind of skill set, because at the end of the day, that's who the editor is going to be relying on to handle more of the technical side and support them in the editorial process.
Awesome. Benjamin also has another question, which is, are all major browsers supported with EOD? And the answer to that is, it doesn't matter. You want to touch on that one, Ray?
Yeah, I think we are, most of the testing has been done with Chrome, I believe. But yeah, I think generally speaking, we're pretty up to date with just about anything.
And the truth of the matter is, it's using the Teradici PC OIP client. So
Right.
it doesn't matter. I can have a computer that's able to connect, even if it doesn't even have its own browser, like you have a computer without a browser. But it's the Teradici client that allows the connectivity out to the cloud instance. And then you have what's installed on that computer there, which is going to be Chrome and Edge, I believe, based upon my last dive into an EOD system.
Yeah, I mean, the key is you can run it on a thin client, right? So you don't need a heavy machine on the side of which you're actually editing from, because you're obviously using it as a VM inside of Azure. So so you can basically run it through the Teradici client, which is, of course, streaming everything back to you, providing that secure access to Media Composer. And once you're in the VM, then you're just treating it like you would any other desktop machine.
Cool. So Devin is asking, is it necessary to become certified in Avid?
It's not necessary, but it is a definite benefit depending on what kind of work you're looking for. It also gives you access to resources that you may not necessarily have access to. I know that particularly in the LA and New York markets, when someone's looking to hire someone with Avid experience, the certification definitely helps for sure.
Yep. And I've seen, it's also the question of, okay, do you need a 4-year degree to be a good editor? Maybe. Did you need the practice? Or are you a, kick-ass storyteller who knows how to use the tools? That's it, not absolutely necessary, but it can help if you need the experience to learn the tech. Okay, so Mr. Lawson from CBS News is asking, is there a Titler Plus for Dummies document out there?
I don't think there's a specific document. Michael Krulik has been doing a great job of constantly doing iterations on our YouTube channel and on our website of the updates to Titler Plus. So I would look on the Media Composer section of our YouTube channel and look for updates there, because Michael does do them to sort of not only highlight new features to the tool, but as you may know, we've been tweaking things in it as it's gone along. And so some of the functionality has been altered and hopefully improved. So Michael points those things out as well.
Awesome. Offer is asking, what are the differences with the Media Composer features between running on Amazon AWS versus Azure Cloud?
Do you want to take one, Ray?
Yeah, I mean, so far we haven't really rolled out an AWS version of Media Composer, but in theory it would be the same, right? There will be no difference.
Yeah, the storage, the underpinnings of the storage are different, but still has Nexus. And the Media Composer is still running on a Windows box, but it's still a Windows Media Composer. So your look and feel is going to be the same.
Yep, and you'll have, I think, the same requirements too in terms of bandwidth down. I think it should be very, very much the same. So, but we'll know obviously as we get closer to, a more formal rollout of that, we'll certainly let you know.
Yep, and then it's just a question about pricing, really, or what, if you already have an existing relationship with one provider rather than the other. I think this is a question for Peter, but also it probably could be opened up to everybody. Ms. Jane is asking, how did the high resolution files get transferred to Editorial for Finnish?
Sure. Well, we were using Edit on Demand, purely for just editorial, so it's still in offline. We had some high resolution, like we were filming in 4K on the Sony Venice pretty much a raw codec on that camera. The onset DITs would convert it, would bring it down and create our proxies. I think we were going to DNX HD like 115. And so that was our offline media that would go up onto Edit On Demand. When we were done and ultimately hit picture lock, we were able to pull the sequence down. And then our assistant editor also was running a local media composer as well. So he had all the media available to him. So, I mean, once he pulled down the sequence that was locked, that sequence then gets, kind of brought into his media composer. Everything's connected, and then we're turning over to a facility to do our finishing. And so we were working with Park Road Post. So then they take the EDLs that was provided to them, and then, go back and online it to the camera raws that they also had LTO'd for us on X. And then the finishing is traditional as a feature. We then move into their color correction suite and work to color the movie, and then ultimately we finish out with them. So then they create all our deliverables that go back to the studio, both theatrical DCPs, as well as the home video assets as well.
So the really simple answer to that is Federal Express. A lot of people, what they do is they will either have a full set of drives that has OCM on it, original camera media, and that ships, or you're making LTOs as you go, and that ships to the post house. And usually in a feature, there's a second LTO that also ships elsewhere. So now you've got your media in 3 different locations, 2 different formats with one offsite. Garth is asking, does the Teradici client need to be on a hardwire to the router, or does Wi-Fi work as well? And what are the latency issues?
Wi-Fi works as well. And like I said, all you really need is around 30 meg down for a single head system. If you want to actually have output on a second monitor, then you probably need about 35 meg down. But yep, wired Wi-Fi, it's all good.
And when you do the math, most Wi-Fi is connected at 54. So the pinch point usually is making sure that your connection to the internet from where you're running the client is up to speed.
Exactly. So just run a speed test, right? And you should be able to see what you're getting for down.
Yeah, latency is a sort of a separate issue from upload and download speeds, and that really just is a matter of like how close are you to where the edit on demand system is being hosted. So that's something that, like, I know Peter and company figured out. They chose one that was closer to David. So David was working in LA, so they had it located on the West Coast of the United States. And Scott was remoting into that, not having as great of an experience as David, but still able to work. So that's really sort of the latency question, is you need to figure that out, like where are people going to be located, and then that's where you would choose to how you would decide where to host the edit on demand system in the cloud.
And if you remember in the presentation too, the map that I showed, the availability of where edit on demand is today. So as Corey points out, you can deploy it in east, west, so on and so forth, right? So there's a lot of options there.
And just remember, the speed of light at the very least still applies. So you still have to get around and back if it's on the other side of the planet. So just keep that in mind as to where you're going to choose to host your EOD instance. John Mark Pirtle has a question. I started on Avid Express TV. I remember that. However, now I feel like one must be an IT expert. These new workflows are overwhelming me with the complexity of pathways and layers and processes and various software handoff processes. I feel totally lost. Any suggestions?
Go ahead, Corey.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of some online resources for workflows. There are lots of blogs and websites out there, and none in particular are coming to mind, but I'll have to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, there's always the option of taking the variety of different classes that are delivered through Avid Education. So I'd highly recommend that, because those are constantly updated. So as iterations come through with new offerings, those courses also get updated. So that's always a great place to start. And then in the Avid knowledge base on avid.com, you can Google just about anything you can think of. and 9 times out of 10, you're going to find what you're looking for there. And as Corey mentioned earlier, our YouTube channel is always content getting posted from product experts here at Avid and our evangelists who can help you, work through some of these issues. But yeah, I can see where maybe sometimes you might feel like it's getting overwhelming, but at the end of the day, something like Edit on Demand auto provisions for you. You don't even really have to think about it. It just does it for you and lets you know when it's done. All right, and you basically just through your typical login experience can access what you should already know, which is your Media Composer experience, right? So, there's a lot of that sort of complexity that's getting tackled sort of behind the scenes for you, hopefully.
And the other thing you can always do is keycodemedia.com.
Yeah.
We've got the pop-up, which will ask you, hey, what do you want to know about today? And say, hey, I need either, I want to go through education. I'd like to talk to someone about updating my systems to help with these new workflows, or I'd like to talk about, getting into EOD. And we've got folks who will be able to help you out. We've, plenty of people here at KeyCode can give you assistance with that. Paul Allen is asking, are there any audio sync issues?
No, I have not run into that as an issue at all. Our demo team routinely uses both Edit on Demand and virtually hosted systems often for demos. And honestly, our biggest hurdle is that we have to do it through Zoom. So the mechanism for doing our demos is often a problem in terms of seeing the real-time playback. But I have not had that issue at all with syncs.
I would say that's true. I think the experience overall from customer feedback has been very positive. No one's complained about sync issues or audio issues. The only request people have made with regard to audio is just more channels, right? More channel support, which I know Teradici's working on.
And the thing is that I think that question is probably based in folks who are used to working with Jump Desktop or other resources to remote control a system. Teradici to a cloud instance does not have that problem. I've never seen it, never heard anyone complain about it. Sharpcut is asking, can you send an output preview with NDI as well as SRT?
You can send, we can send the NDI out at the same time locally, meaning you can send NDI out of Media Composer and send the SRT. We don't have NDI support for like NDI 5, for example, in the timeline to be able to send it over commodity internet for delivery in the same fashion that we do with SRT today. I'm not sure if that was the question, but.
Yeah, I think that is the question. I believe it's the OpenIO. I think you can only have one or the other, from what I recall. I think we've run out of questions here, unless I'm about to get one posted, and I'm not. So, thanks everyone for popping in to help us discuss what's going on with Avid and with EOD, Media Composer. My apologies to Matt Damon, and we're gonna wrap it up. If you've got any questions, or you had a question that was unanswered, and we have some out there that were storage DNA based, we'll get back to you offline with that. Please reach out to us here at KeyCode Media. We'd love to hear from you. So thanks everybody for joining me today, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you.